Hello, I'm State Representative Jim Beeke from the 84th House District. Welcome to Ohio in Focus.
Hello, and welcome to this edition of Ohio in Focus, a program that brings state government to you. I'm your host, Alex Adams. We have with us today State Representative Jim Beeke, who serves the 84th House District, which includes all of Mercer County and parts of Algalaize, Darke, and Shelby counties. Thank you for joining us, Representative.
Well, Alex, it's always a pleasure to be here, believe me.
We're going to start off with House Bill 387, which goes into effect in the end of September, and it deals with small claims courts across Ohio. It specifically raises the maximum monetary award for those courts. So can you tell us what types of cases small claims courts typically hear?
Well, small claims basically is accounts payable and accounts receivable of small businesses. Here, small businesses don't have the privilege of having a large legal staff or resources to go after customers who have purchased product in good faith and then haven't paid for it. So we currently have small claims where a person can go to the Court of Claims with proof that somebody bought product and did not pay for it after a reasonable length of time, and the court will award judgment, and then that gives that business an opportunity to go collect. The threshold has been $3,000, and the legislation doubles that to $6,000, so that the smaller businesses can have a higher figure that they can go after without having to have legal counsel. Because when you get into 5-6 figure outstanding debts owed to people and companies, why that starts running the cost up to get that money back.
So as you mentioned, it doubles that cap. So what type of impact do you foresee that having, maybe specifically on Ohio small businesses?
Well, it's a big plus because when you have a judgment rendered in a court of small claims, that person that owes the money, who has had judgment against them in the court of claims, will have difficulty trying to transact other business transactions until they get that bill paid off. So it's a big help, and by moving the threshold up from $3,000 to $6,000 makes it better yet in terms of going after bigger amounts without having to have other additional costs such as legal representation.
So how does the new cap compare to other states across the nation?
Well, we're competitive. Around us, we have states with 6,000. We have I think Michigan is about 10,000. No, Pennsylvania is. West Virginia, Michigan, Indiana, Kentucky are all around that figure. So we're very competitive now at $6,000.
All right, so transitioning to Senate Bill 159, which is another piece of legislation that's set to go into effect here soon. So amongst other things, it specifically renames Port Columbus International Airport after John Glenn. So can you give us some insight as to why the legislature thought it was fitting to name the airport after him?
Well, Alex, as you know, Ohio is at the mecca of air travel. I mean, it's the Wright brothers in Dayton. Neil Armstrong walked on the moon, and in between was Senator John Glenn, who, prior to being senator, was an astronaut, and on February 20th of 1962, orbited the Earth 3 times in 5 hours in the Friendship 7. And the significance of that is incredible to aviation and so on. So he was an absolute major contributor to the technological advances that we've had in aviation. And then, of course, he went from being an astronaut to being a public servant. And he served in the United States Senate and used his expertise from his military background and so on to be involved with committees on public affairs and foreign relations and that sort of thing that is good for the security of the country. So it's it is fitting that the Port Columbus Airport be renamed as it is to John Glenn Airport.
Yeah, so what connection, if any, does he have to the Columbus airport specifically?
Well, of course, in 1929, when the airport opened, he was 8. And of course, he's from New Concord, east of Columbus, and he begged his parents to have him view those airplanes coming in and out of that airport. And my guess is that visiting the airport and watching the air flight and so on had a tremendous impact on him as to how he had his career unfold from that point on. So the airport is very important to John Glenn.
Good. So I want to transition to talk about gas prices. Gas prices are constantly fluctuating, as you know, but recently it seems like we're paying a little bit less at the pump. So can you give us the reasoning behind such low gas prices?
Well, of course, it still revolves around supply and demand. And over the years, in my lifetime, back in the 70s when we had a problem with OPEC being in charge, petroleum exporting countries in the Mideast, they basically controlled the price of oil. Well, because of the fact that we have tremendous oil and gas resources in this country that have been found, especially, as you well know, the shale gas play that's been uncovered in the last few years. Well, all that does is create more supply of the product that we demand for transportation. And when you have more supply, you have more competition, and the price drops down. So that's the basic underlying linchpin as to why we're having more economical fuel at the pump.
So do you foresee these low prices sticking around for a while?
I do. The market's fluctuating. Now, I bought fuel the other day for under $1, and I noticed I watched the daily oil market, and it was down in around $40 a barrel. Now I noticed in the last few days it's up to 45. So you'll see prices vary. But compared to several years ago, it is so much more economical.
So what kind of impact has this had on Ohio's economy specifically?
Well, of course, Alex, that's discretionary income. When we go to the pump, and if we save $1 a gallon versus a year ago on a 15-gallon fill-up, that's $15 extra in our pocket. And we're going to use that, we're going to spend that by and large and for goods and services at the store. So you multiply that times millions, and all of a sudden you've got the economy humming.
Good. So transitioning now to something near and dear to the hearts of the 84th District, and that's Ohio agriculture.
Sure.
Your constituents know a lot about that, as do you. So recently a big topic relating to agriculture has been water quality and the issue of algal blooms and nutrient loading. So what has the legislature been doing to address those problems specifically?
Well, of course, as openers, you know that Grand Lake St. Mary's is in the 84th House District in its entirety. And so about 5 years ago or so, we had quite an algal bloom and caused a lot of havoc. Now, the nutrient loading into Grand Lake St. Mary's has been building up for over 150 years. So it took a while to get us to where we are, but measures have been taken to reduce that now, and the lake is improving all the time. And one of the big things that we've done is have spent a lot of time with the farmers and producers in the area with regards to better stewardship practices and management of their farm grounds, so that we have less phosphorus that comes off of the farms into the streams, tributaries, and lakes. And for that matter, as you well know, we have a major problem in the western basin of Lake Erie. So what we've done is, from a legislative standpoint, is we have moved the training and certification for applicators for nutrients from the Department of Natural Resources, Department of Agriculture, which is the real source of better education. And so, well, it's not better, it's just that it's continuity, because they certify pesticide applicators, for example, and so on. So what this does is it puts it all under one umbrella, and it teaches the producers and the applicators better ways to utilize that product better, so that we'd have less runoff. The idea is to keep all you need for algae is phosphorus, water, and sunshine. And so what we want to do is obviously keep the nutrients on the land so that we have better yields with corn, soybeans, and so on. So that's one thing we've done, and we've done several other measures, particularly as it relates to the Lake Erie watershed, which is over 3 million acres. And so that's what we're doing, focusing on how do we reduce the input, which will make it better for everybody.
Okay, so the legislation and working with farmers to teach them best practices. I know the Ohio State University has also done a lot of research into the water quality issue. So all of that together, combined, what do you think the future of Ohio agriculture is?
Well, it's unbelievable because it's currently 1 out of 7 jobs. Agriculture production is now over $100 billion to $100 billion to Ohio's economy. Here's what's coming. We're teaching future generations to make livelihood in agriculture. And over in the 84th district, which as you may know or should know, that we produce about 15% of total food production in Ohio every year. And we have 20 public schools in the district, and that plus other schools around. Here's the future. The future is encouraging the kids to make a livelihood and careers into agriculture through exposure with 4-H and FFA and ag-related activities that will encourage people to take a look at becoming part of food production.
Great. So with only a couple seconds left, if your constituents want to weigh in on anything we've talked about today or have any questions related to state government, how can they reach you?
Well, the quickest way is by phone, area code 614-466-6344. Email rep84@ohiohouse.gov. And as you know, each month we like to have our opinion coming back and feedback from the constituents. So I'm encouraging everybody to take the survey again this month. And that's tinyurl.com/Beeke September 2016.
All right, awesome. Thank you for joining us today, Representative.
It's always my pleasure, Alex.
We look forward to seeing you again on the next edition of Ohio in Focus, the program that brings state government to you. Thank you for joining us.